Did the Spurs road win versus the Pistons pretty much solidify them as a legit threat in the NBA for the title? And let's preview tonight's Spurs Raptors game.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs, right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Kent's 5 San Antonio. Glad to have y'all back. As always, thank y'all for making Locked On Spurs your first and only spot for all things silver and black. We definitely appreciate it. We also appreciate y'all making the Locked On Sports Podcast Network #1 in this nation. Definitely appreciate that. Subscribe wherever you get your favorite podcast. You know where to go. Kent's 5 Plus app, YouTube, iTunes. The list goes on and on. Pick a platform. We are there. What are we talking about today? We're looking back at that win versus the Pistons. Huge win, right? Big time win. East-leading Pistons took them down in their gym. Is it finally safe to say this team is legit after getting a massive win versus record-wise one of the best teams in the NBA? And then preview tonight's Spurs Raptors game. Yep, the Rudy road trip continues. Next stop is in Toronto. Let's go to bring in our guest, everybody. He is back after taking a week and a half off. He is Mr. Rudy Campos of Box Score Studio. Rudy, we missed you, buddy.
Yeah, I missed being on too. I had to get had to start using my vacation. I use it or lose it with Locked On. So I had to take a week back.
You know, those roll over, Rudy. They roll over, so you're good.
Oh, like my contract, it doesn't say that. It says that I have to use it after a year. So.
Sneaky contract there. No, he is with Box Score Studio. Follow him on X at Box Score Studio. He's going to brag about his show, Box Score, in a few minutes. And Rudy, let's go ahead and dive into it right now. And let's look back at that game versus the Pistons. Huge win. Spurs at one point had a 15-point lead over the East-leading Detroit Pistons. You know, perhaps one of the best, if not the best defensive teams in the league. Yeah, 15-point lead on them. En route to a win. Huge win. I had them penciled as losing that game versus the Pistons on the road trip. They certainly surprised me. Nevertheless, they got it done offensively. They got it done defensively. They used their depth. And guess what? They rose to the challenge to match Detroit's physicality. Begs the question, Rudy, you get first crack at this. Did that win finally send a message to the rest of the NBA that this first team is real, it's legit, it's a threat for the NBA title this season? Your thoughts?
You know, the win against Detroit, I don't think it just solidified it. I think it just made more people put on notice more than anything. They were already a solidified contender. Probably in the last week or so is when you started to hear their name pop up between the names of the Denver Nuggets, Oklahoma City Thunder, and the West. So I think saying that this kind of win already like solidified and it's a guaranteed, I think we've already been through that already. There are a lot of people around the league, a lot of people that are covering the Spurs are actually giving them that moniker, that title right now, saying, yeah, they are a legit threat for the NBA title this season. I think what it did with that Detroit team was that they showed that the Spurs can be physical again with another physical team. And again, put in another, notch in their belt loop, beating the Detroit Pistons team, who I actually, before this game, Jeff, had on Box Score TV, I had Detroit as the best team in the league right now. Spurs are definitely proving everybody wrong. They are definitely here to stay. They're going to be a title contender this season. But again, the only question that we all have, no matter who you are, is come playoff time, it's a different animal. It's a 7-game series. You have to learn the adjustments. You've got to learn to fight through battles and stuff like that. So, needless to say, the question is answered. Yeah, it's just more than putting a stamp on it. It's just they are here to play, they're here to stay, and they're here to compete for a title.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there, Rudy. I agree with you. Yes, they've already been kind of barking a lot right now as far as them being considered a legit threat. But I think they took a bullhorn collectively to the team and just went to the top of the Tower Americas and pointed at every NBA team's direction and said, we are here, we are legit. Yeah, I know. I think that win solidified it 100%. There was some doubt heading into that game versus the Pistons. For me, it was, okay, yeah, you beat up on the Kings in Austin. You beat up on a depleted Suns team. But have you really been tested, Spurs, against the big boys? And guess what? They passed with flying colors. You add that to the fact that they beat OKC, got the regular season series on them. They beating the likes of Houston, they're beating the likes of Orlando and Denver. Now you add Detroit to it. This team has proven they can play with the big boys. They get up for these big matches. This game also showed me they can adjust to whatever style. You want to run and gun, old school, 7 seconds or less, Phoenix Sun style, they can do it. You want to play a half court, they can do it. You want to get up in each other's grill and start beefing and pushing and getting physical, they proved that too versus the Pistons, especially when Cade Cunningham shoved Castle. Keldon Johnson came back to shove Cade back, and in comes Duran, and then, almost all, what broke out. Luckily, cooler heads prevailed. So, Rudy, I'm seeing a more complete team, especially in this 9-game winning streak that the longest of the league right now. Rudy, what is holding you back? If we have to play devil's advocate here, I know you mentioned, you have some concerns about the playoff and that atmosphere. But what are other concerns you have about this team that maybe isn't having Mr. Rudy Campos of Box Score Studio say, you know what, stamp of approval, this team is here?
Well, let's make it clear. I'm not saying that I don't have them as a title contender. I really do. But if I had to pick one part of their game where I have concern in, it's not so much physicality anymore. In fact, they answered the physicality question when they added Mason Plumlee on the team. So that already just went out the door. He's a very tough guy, very viable guy. He's going to bring the toughness that this Spurs team needs. The only concern I have, and not necessarily in the playoffs that I mentioned earlier, I think this team doing what they're doing this season and the cup run that they had during that NBA cup run, that's going to help, come playoff time as well. The only concern is I think what all Spurs fans are really concerned about, but don't ever talk about it, is health. It's the injury bug. You're on a roll right now. You've got a very healthy team. You've got very minimal injuries. When I say very minimal, it's probably like Mason Plumlee's out here or there, but he's going to be coming back, and then you may have a couple of guys sitting out basically for rest. But it's injury concerns. We're at the time of the season where, if I'm not mistaken, last year you saw Fox go out. You saw a lot of guys go out. Wemby had an issue. We're not seeing that this year, so we're just trying to keep our fingers crossed that this team stays healthy heading into a playoff run, because, as mentioned before, a healthy Spurs team is one of the, if not the toughest Spurs teams to beat when they are healthy, because, again, their depth at every position is just unbelievable. So for me, if I had to play devil's advocate and I had to just nitpick at one thing, the only legit concern I have is health.
That is a big one, obviously. They go as Victor goes. But for me, it's still that outside shooting. It was on versus the Pistons. And that's the thing about the Spurs. They have to see it, Rudy. If their 3-shot is falling, this team is nearly unstoppable. Nearly unstoppable. Vassell was hitting from beyond the arc. You had Barnes contributing. Champagne was hitting beyond the arc. Even he talked some smack to the Pistons bench when he hit a 3. But the problem is those games are too far and few between. I think my only concern right now would be that outside shooting and how vital it is in today's NBA. The Spurs, they're not the greatest in the NBA in that department, but versus the Pistons, they certainly were. Now, let's look at some numbers now. What's going on in the 9-game win streak? So we're not going to go too far back at all 9. Look at the last 5 wins, all right? So, Rudy, this team is just showing title contending statistics. In their last 5 games, part of the 9-game winning streak, they're first in offensive rating in the NBA at 125. They're fourth in defensive rating at 106.5. And in true shooting percentage, they're third at 61%. So they're starting to knock down their outside shots. You go deeper than that. You look at turnover percentage. They're out just right outside of the top 10. Notice keeping mistakes to a minimum. They're now 11th at 13.6% turnover percentage in the NBA. And here's what the big one is for me. They're sharing the ball. If we saw versus the Pistons, everybody ate. Everybody got touches. Right now, they're 9th in the NBA in assist percentage at 69%. Rudy, we look at that 3-point shooting, though, still near the bottom, though, even though they're winning, and even though, at least in their last 5 wins, they're undefeated, 39.2%. That's good for 21st in the NBA. Rudy, that is still going to be an issue. Do you think ultimately that could bite them in the butt? Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right, flight tickets and the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock in. If you love futures, this is the time of the year. Whether it's picking a team to win the championship or grab a conference title, it adds a little bit of an extra layer to the excitement of every game down the stretch. And now, not only can you pick cash, but it could also send you to the finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future to get entered for a chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. Access to ad-free audio feed for Locked On Spurs, compatible with Apple's Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. An invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat for just listeners of this show and, well, hanging out with a lot of other fans on Discord. You want to go to this website right now, lockedonpodcast.com/everydayerclub. Go there right now or just tap the link in the show notes to learn more.
No, I don't think so. And I can kind of come back to you and kind of rebut on what you're saying about the shooting, especially outside shooting percentage. They're a 40-plus win team already, and they've had a lot of nights where they did not shoot the ball well, especially from beyond the arc. I think what happens with this team is that when it's not knocking down, then you add another element. Maybe the other team's a lot more physical. Vic doesn't get into his groove. He doesn't get into the paint. He tries to relay on his outside jumper. It's not falling. Those are the games that the Spurs tend to have lost and kind of lost pretty big on, is when the other teams fall in, they can't adjust to the other team. But when it comes to shooting percentages, I mean, they haven't shot the ball well in a lot of games, yet they're still winning. So that just tells me that they can beat you on any side of the court. If they're not knocking down their jump shots, they're attacking the rim. You've seen Dylan Harper get to the basket, De'Aaron Fox get to the basket. I know they do miss a lot of layups. That is the concerning part for me, is they do miss a lot of close range shots. But again, they make up for all this, Jeff, on the defensive side of the ball. If they're able to stop the other team from scoring, they can eventually get into a rhythm where if it's not making jump shots, it's getting to the basket, drawing fouls. And that's something that I think Vic has actually kind of picked up on when it comes to the narrative of fans. And maybe his coach is telling him, attack the basket a little more, be under the basket a little bit more. And we're seeing that. So I'm not so much concerned about shooting. What I'm concerned about is, like I said, the health part. But when it comes to a playoff series, no team's going to shoot the lights out, right? No matter who you are in a 7-game playoff series. They're never going to be a hot shooting team. Maybe 2 out of maybe 3 games at the most. So not a big concern. I think what I look at is if they're not knocking down their shots, they do change it up. They attack the basket a lot more. So not really concerned for me.
Yeah, they can always make it up and cover it up with their defense. Their defense is still one of the best in the NBA. So they can cover that up. And when you have a guy like Victor, again, you can go to him to make up the differences, whether it be and one plays or whatnot. But nevertheless, this team is humming right now. Again, you go back to the main topic here. Did the win versus the Pistons prove they are legit? I think it did. You cannot get a louder message than that. To go to the Pistons gym, where I believe they were well above 500 versus Western teams going into that game. I think now they're 6-3. They're 6-2 in those games. So that's what makes me feel that they sent a message times 100 to the rest of the league that they are for real. And what I like about it too is just we see their depth on display, especially in this win streak. One night it's Victor. One night it's Devin, as we saw versus the Pistons. Sometimes it could be Castle when he dropped that 40-point game. So you're seeing balance, and they can get that type of threat off the bench as well. Not going to surprise me to see that Keldon Johnson leads the team in scoring at one point, because he's done that before. Same thing goes with even a guy like Dylan Harper. Say, he led the team in assist. Rudy, do you think you add more to cover up their warts, their depth is going to be one of those things, kind of like a Band-Aid for any issues that may arise.
No, definitely one of the deepest teams in the NBA. It's them and the Nuggets that have, very deep rosters. So, I mean, it's coming to play because, like you mentioned, when you've got a cornerstone guy like Victor Wembanyama, and he doesn't have to be the man night in and night out, let me ask you, doesn't it seem kind of familiar during part of the Duncan years in San Antonio where, he was a focal point, but he wasn't always the leading scorer every night.
True.
There was a lot of times where he was second man, maybe even third man behind Tony and Manu or somebody else, where Duncan wasn't the leading scorer, but he was still effective on a lot of different parts of the game. That's kind of what you're seeing with Victor. Yeah, he's the main guy. He's the main guy in San Antonio, but he doesn't have to be that focal guy. He doesn't have to be the main guy, the main option. So he will contribute in many other ways. But the depth of San Antonio, it really is coming into play. And like I said, that Mason Plumlee signing, that was, I don't even want to say it's massive. That is a season changer right there if he pans out.
Pun intended, massive.
Massive. It's massive right there. He's going to be a season changer, put it that way. If he comes out and plays the way that he's capable of playing and adds the type of depth that the Spurs need. I mean, you're looking at Wemby, Cornette, then you go Mason Plumlee and Kelly Olynyk, Bismack Biyombo, who I'm going to put probably at fifth right now. But the depth of the Spurs, Jeff, it's unbelievably good. So it's a very good problem to have.
So in sum, before we get into the Raptors preview right now, Rudy is saying, they are legit. They are contenders way before the win versus the Pistons. I mean, the game that the Pistons did, well, beating them, was just add more exclamation points to that.
Correct.
For me, I still had my doubts, namely because they haven't really been playing some of the big boys up until the Pistons game, and they proved it. Now, yes, they beat the Thunder, they beat the Denver Nuggets, Magic, et cetera, Houston, blah, 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 and Suns now as well. But to really be tested against one of the best teams in the league, they passed. The last time we did that was against the Thunder. That was it, and that was when the Thunder played a depleted G League team practically. So they still haven't had that test yet. And now they have it, and they pass with flying colors. And it doesn't get any easier. You got the Raptors next. Talk about that soon. You got the Knicks coming up, et cetera, et cetera. They got a game against the Celtics, so it's going to get a little tough. But overall, we look at what the Spurs did, especially in that Pistons win. Defense, check. Offense, check. Spreading the ball, sharing the ball, check. The dynamic players they have and those guards / wings they have from Castle to Vassell, Harper, is just a big problem. That win versus, excuse me, everybody. That win versus the Pistons definitely proved this team is for real. What do y'all think? Y'all think the Spurs have sent a message times 100 to the rest of the league? Let us know. Let Rudy know on X at Box Score Studio. Let me know on X at Jeff G Spurs Zone. Speaking of the Spurs and the road ahead, let's look at tonight's game, Spurs and Raptors. Now, the good thing, Rudy, is that the Spurs are catching the Raptors on the second game of a back-to-back for them. They took on the Thunder last night, and now they take on the Spurs tonight in their gym. The Raptors have lost 2 games straight to the Spurs, so that's really good for the Spurs, at least recent history proves. And overall, if I look at this team, another test for the Spurs. Would you agree?
Yeah, this is one of those little under the radar sneaky games that can kind of come up and bite you in the butt. When you're on a hot winning streak right now, 9 games in a row, you're flying high, cloud 9. Yeah. This is one of those games where it can. I mean, Toronto is in a playoff team, or at least a minimum playing team right now, in the Eastern Conference. So, they got a sneaky good squad. I mean, the only guy that they're missing is Jakob Poeltl. They're going to have Ingram, Barrett. It's they've got a really good, nice squad now. They're coming off a back-to-back with the Thunder last night. Who's to say that we're probably maybe going to see a Spur maybe be out, maybe for rest or something like that. Even at that, I think that where they have enough firepower, they've got enough chemistry to probably get the win over the Raptors. But yeah, this could be a sneaky game for them to watch and hopefully not let go just based off of, well, it's the Raptors and we should have this back.
Raptors come into tonight's game, again, ahead of this game they had versus the Thunder, 5th in the Eastern Conference. So they're right in the thick of things still. Just goes to show you They have 34 wins as of this recording for Toronto and still be a top 5 team in the East. But nevertheless, you look at some of the numbers now, again, before they take on the Thunder. Overall, Rudy, it starts with their defense. Did you know the Raptors are actually 6th in defensive rating, at 113.1. So they definitely play some defense that could be a problem for the Spurs tonight, as well as offensive rating. Not horrible, but they're not great. They're right in the middle of the pack, 115.3 offensive rating. Now, any numbers that also stand out for me is steal percentage. The Raptors do cause some steals. Obviously, they're one of the better defensive teams, numbers proving that. They're actually 11th in steal percentage at 8.8 per game percentage. So they keep that in mind. Overall, they are cooking of late, Rudy. In their last 5 games, they're 4-1. Again, heading into the game versus the Thunder. Let's make that very clear. Rudy, I think the Spurs maybe catch the Raptors at a point in their season where maybe they're trying to get a little bit of rhythm. But if you're looking at tonight's game, Rudy, who are you looking at for the Spurs to have a good game?
Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs helps you reach the people you can actually fit what you're looking for, skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching for more time interviewing candidates who check all the boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hire? There's a job for Indeed sponsors job.
Game-wise, I would love to see Dylan Harper just to really get a good game in. Coming off the bench, I'd love to see him get, right around that 13, 14 point mark, get about 5 or 6 assists a game. I think he's been playing well, but not above to what we've been noticing him from early in the season. So a nice little bounce back game for Dylan, and it'd be in a good way. Obviously, that's one guy that I've kind of got circled. Another guy that I do want to see get a really good game in. I want to see more out of Carter Bryant. I mean, we're kind of getting, a little bit of what we're kind of expecting to see out of Carter Bryant. I think it's a team like the Raptors because, they're kind of mid when it comes to scoring. I'd like to see him get his defensive presence on when it comes to the Raptors, be a little bit more physical, be a little bit more I guess emotional on the side when it comes to the defense side, try to get a couple more steals, a couple more blocks. Offensively, just kind of attack the basket a little bit more. So those are the 2 guys that I've kind of got highlighted. The rest of the guys, I mean, we're talking Steph Castle and all these guys, Vassell, Fox, they're just going to do their thing. They're going to play their game. Those 2 guys against the Raptors, I would like to see a little bit more out of the 2 rookies this game.
Absolutely. Now, let's highlight Harper because you brought him up right now. Look at the last 5 games that he's been contributing to. A lot. He's been contributing a lot in the last 5 games. So, Rudy, you could be honest with that he could explode tonight versus Toronto. In his last 5, he's actually a plus 14.8 for the Spurs, averaging nearly 13 points per game, 3 rebounds per game, 5 assists per game, doing all that in 24 minutes. And his outside shooting, well, his 2-point percentage shooting is 68%. Obviously, gets most of the damage in the paint. So overall, he's been playing great. You're looking even this, he's averaging about 2 fouls drawn. So he's able to bait players into committee fouls. That's good. Also, 1.2 turnovers in his last 5, Rudy. To me, that's a bigger mark of improvement. Your thoughts?
Yeah, he's improving all throughout the season. showing why he was worthy of that second pick, by the Spurs. But, the thing that I look at too is, could this possibly be a game for Dylan Harper where Mitch inserts him into the starting lineup, maybe brings Fox off the bench? Maybe Fox gets the night off. I kind of would like to see that against Toronto, to put Dylan Harper in there, give him that first starting minutes, see how he plays and see how he runs with the starters. That would be ideal for me against the Raptors. So again, his improvement is, like I said, it's a blessing to have the second pick in that draft and to get a guy like Dylan Harper, because you're seeing why they had a lot of struggles with backup point guards. We were back in the Trey Jones era, for the San Antonio Spurs. But with Dylan Harper, I mean, I don't even think it's funny because if he's on another team, Jeff, he's probably neck and neck with Cooper Flag as far as rookie of the year, maybe with Campos. But with the Spurs, he's really accepted his role. He's really shining, really flourishing. And so that counts a lot for something.
Let's not discount the Raptors, especially in their starting unit. Brandon Ingram, Rudy, 22 points per game. Scotty Barnes, 19 points per game. And then that goes to RJ Barrett. He's averaging 18 a game. And Emmanuel Quickly, 17.2 points per game, along with 6.1 assists and 1.2 steals. I'm sorry, assists, excuse me. 1.2 steals. There we go. Overall, this is another test for the Spurs. They should win. The Raptors do struggle versus the West in their gym. They're just slightly above 500 I got it here. No, actually, they're slightly below 500. They're 4-5 versus the Western Conference teams. So should bode well for the Spurs. Rudy, I got the win streak hitting 10 in a row. What do you got?
I definitely have the Spurs winning this game, hitting 10 wins in a row.
Can you believe that? I mean, it was the last time we said that.
Man, I don't even know. I would say it wasn't during the LaMarcus days, was it?
May have been, yeah. I think it was.
Was it the LaMarcus? Yeah, it might have been during the LaMarcus days that we may have said that. I don't know. Spurs on Locked On Fans. The Locked On Fans can research out for us.
Yeah, please.
I definitely got them hitting a 10-game winning streak here, especially with the Raptors coming in from a back-to-back, especially against OKC. I mean, that team right there will run you out of the gym and make you tired when you have a back-to-back the next night against the hottest team in the NBA. That's not a very good two-game streak right there. For the Raptors. But yeah, give me the Spurs.
Yeah, I got the Spurs getting the W. The win streak continues. All right, there's your quick Spurs Raptors preview. Well, we got to know what y'all think. What do you think about the main topic today? Have the Spurs announced their presence as a title contender after beating the Pistons? And what do you think about tonight's Spurs Raptors games? Let Rudy know on X at Box Score Studio. Let me know on X at Jeff G Spurs Zone. Rudy, what's the latest and greatest with Box Score?
Yeah, so Box Score, we're getting all of our NFL draft content for you guys out there. The NFL Combine is coming up really quick here. So, getting our draft prospects ready for you, kind of give you top 5, top 10 in each position. Just a lot of work from the guys over at Box Score Studio. And, the biggest thing, too, for Box Score that I'd like to ask, Locked On fans is, with Victor's looming max deal coming up, I believe this summer, that he could potentially sign, does this basically tell you that the Spurs are done, that they don't have to go after a big name free? I like to hear from Locked On fans from that, because you always hear about Giannis, you always hear about these other guys
popping up again.
Yeah, you don't want to tie up too much money because you have a lot of young guys coming up still. So is it necessary for the Spurs to go after a free agent this summer? There's going to be some big ones available. I'd love to hear from Locked On fans about that.
And that's why he's the best in the business, Mr. Rudy Campos with Box Score Studio. That's all San Antonio. Just thanking him again for hopping on here on Locked On Spurs. Rudy, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. Again, follow him on X, everybody, at Box Score Studio. Rudy, as always, thank you. Everybody else, we thank y'all for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts. You know what to do. Subscribe. iTunes, Spotify, Ken's 5 Plus app, YouTube. Just pick a platform. We are there. Check out the Locked On NBA Everydayer Club. So what is that? So basically, you can get Locked On Spurs pretty much ad-free. You get members-only Discord access. You can chat it up with other Spurs fans. You want to go sign up right now. You want to go to lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer club. There you can find the link to sign up. Do that right now. We'll be back tomorrow as the Spurs season rolls on. So for Mr. Rudy Campos, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.